It was one of those sweltering summer afternoons where the air inside the house felt hotter than outside, and every breath felt like you were inhaling steam. My husband had just left for a business trip that morning, 3 days out of town, as always, too busy to notice how distant we had become. The AC had been acting up for weeks, and today it finally gave up. With no patience left to wait, I picked up my phone and called for a repair service. That single call? It changed everything. About an hour later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and found a man in his mid-30s, wearing a simple blue uniform and holding a toolbox. He had this easy confidence about him, kind eyes, a little smirk like he knew exactly what he was doing. "You called about the AC?" he asked. I nodded, stepping aside to let him in, not thinking twice. At the time, he was just the guy here to fix the heat. I had no idea the real heat was about to come from somewhere else entirely. He moved around the living room like he'd been here before, asking questions with just the right amount of charm. Not flirty, not exactly, but the kind of attention that makes you feel seen. And for someone who had felt invisible in her own marriage for months, that attention was louder than I expected. While he worked, I offered him a glass of water. Then we talked. Nothing deep, just little things. But something about the way he listened, how he looked at me when I spoke, it was like he actually cared. Minutes turned into hours. He didn't seem in any hurry to leave, and truth be told, I didn't want him to. There was a strange comfort in his presence, like he'd shown up not just to fix the AC, but to fix something inside me I hadn't realized was broken. Later, after the job was done, or so I thought, he hesitated at the door. "If you need anything else, you can call me directly," he said, slipping me his number with a quiet smile. I stood there holding the paper after he left, heart racing, unsure why I felt the way I did. But what happened next, I never planned. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't even know I was capable of it. Because 3 days later, when my husband was still away, that same man came back. Not for repairs. Not for work. And the line between a broken air conditioner and a broken vow blurred faster than I could stop it. What started as a simple service call turned into something I couldn't undo, and by the time I realized how deep I was in, it was already too late. Stay tuned. Because what happened after he stayed in my bed? It's the part of the story no one saw coming. I didn't sleep much the night after he left his number. I kept looking at that little slip of paper, wondering what it meant. Maybe it was just part of his job, maybe he gave his number to all clients. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. There was something in the way he said it, something in his voice that lingered in my mind longer than it should have. I told myself to throw the number away, to forget it, to not be stupid. But the truth is, I didn't. The next day was quiet. Too quiet. I moved around the house doing chores I didn't care about, checking my phone more times than I want to admit. My husband sent a goodnight text, short and routine, no call, no warmth, just words. I stared at it for a moment, then put my phone face down and walked away. The heat came back by evening. Not as bad, but enough to make me frustrated again. That was the excuse I gave myself when I finally picked up the phone. I told myself I just needed the AC double-checked. That's all. But when he answered on the second ring and said, "Hey, I was hoping you'd call," my heart skipped in a way it hadn't in years. He came the next afternoon. Same uniform, same quiet smile, but the energy between us felt different. We didn't talk much at first. He went straight to the unit, checked a few things, then leaned back and looked at me, not with curiosity, but like he already knew something I hadn't said out loud. And then, out of nowhere, he said something that made everything shift. "You don't seem happy here." I didn't answer. Because he wasn't wrong. I looked away when he said that, pretending to check my phone, but the words kept echoing. "You don't seem happy here." He didn't say it with judgment. Just quiet observation, like he had seen this story before in someone else's eyes. I wanted to deny it, say something smart, brush it off, but I couldn't. Because the truth was, I wasn't happy. I hadn't been for a long time. My marriage had become more of a schedule than a relationship. My husband was always gone, always busy, and when he was home, it felt like he wasn't really there. The AC guy, Jake, I finally asked his name, sat on the edge of the couch, wiping his hands on a towel. I noticed the way he looked at everything around the room, like he was trying to picture the life I lived here. A picture-perfect house, clean surfaces, framed photos, but none of those images told the full story. They didn't show the late nights I sat alone. The arguments that ended in silence. The way I missed being noticed. Jake didn't push. He just asked me how long I'd been married. I said 8 years. He nodded, then told me he was divorced, said it quietly, like he didn't like talking about it, but didn't hide it either. That small piece of his life opened something between us. It wasn't just about attraction anymore. There was understanding. Recognition. Two people who had been through different storms but somehow ended up in the same moment. But just when I felt like I could breathe, the front door clicked. I wasn't expecting anyone. And for one terrifying second, I thought my husband had come back early. But it wasn't him. And what happened next was the start of a secret I couldn't control. The sound of the front door unlocking sent a wave of panic through my chest. My eyes met Jake's, and for a second, neither of us moved. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear the footsteps. I stood up quickly, trying to act normal, trying to remember how to breathe. But my thoughts were racing. Had my husband changed his flight? Did I miss a text? But then I heard her voice. It was Sarah, my next-door neighbor. She had a spare key for emergencies. Hey. Your car was out front but you didn't answer your phone. I just came to check on you. Jake stood up too, casually straightening his shirt. I rushed to the front hall, forcing a smile, trying to hide the tension in my voice. Sorry, I was in the back. AC guys here again, units acting up. She peeked over my shoulder and smiled politely at him. Oh. Got it. Well, I brought over those garden tools you asked for last week. She handed me the bag and looked around, her eyes lingering just a little too long. We chatted briefly, but I could feel something was off. Her tone. Her expression. Like she knew something didn't quite fit. After she left, I closed the door slowly and leaned against it, feeling the weight of everything I was juggling press hard on my chest. Jake looked at me, a hint of concern in his eyes. You okay? I nodded, but I wasn't. That moment changed something. The line I was walking suddenly felt thinner. The risk, so much closer. Later that night, after Jake left, I sat in the dark living room, staring at the framed wedding photo on the wall. I didn't know it then, but someone else had started watching too. The next morning, something felt off. There was a strange stillness in the air, like the house itself knew something I didn't. I went to make coffee, trying to distract myself from the guilt that had been creeping in, but my hands trembled as I reached for the mug. I kept thinking about the way Sarah looked at me the day before, like she saw through everything. She was the kind of neighbor who noticed things. Quiet, polite, but always watching. My stomach turned as I opened the curtains and saw her standing in her garden again. She looked up, locked eyes with me for a second, then turned away. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But a few hours later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. No words. Just a photo. My heart dropped. It was a picture of Jake standing inside my living room. Taken through the window. Taken from outside. I stared at the screen, frozen. My throat went dry. Someone had been watching. Someone new. My first thought was Sarah, but I couldn't be sure. I looked out the window again, but her curtains were drawn. I couldn't focus. Couldn't sit still. I called Jake, told him what happened. He sounded calm, but his voice lowered, like he suddenly understood the danger too. This could get out of control fast, he said. You need to be careful. And then, just as I hung up, another message came in. This time, there were words. You think no one's watching, but I see everything. Tell your husband the truth before I do. I couldn't breathe. My fingers shook as I read the message again and again. Someone wasn't just watching. They wanted to use it. To ruin me. I looked at the clock. My husband would be home tomorrow. And now I had less than 24 hours before my secret blew up everything. But what I didn't know was that this wasn't just about me and Jake anymore. The person watching? They had their own reason. And their truth was even darker than mine. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound made me jump. Every flicker of light outside felt like someone standing there, watching again. I kept checking my phone, expecting another message, another threat. But nothing came. Just silence, the kind that builds pressure in your chest. I sat on the couch until sunrise, thinking about what to do, how to fix this before everything crashed. By noon, my husband was home. He walked through the door smiling, tired from travel, and completely unaware that everything around him had changed. I watched him hug me like normal, ask about the AC, talk about his meetings, like he still thought we were fine. But my heart was racing. That message kept ringing in my head, tell him before I do. I pulled him aside and told him we needed to talk. He looked at me, confused, but followed. We sat in the kitchen. My hands were shaking. I told him everything about the heat, the repair call, Jake coming back, the messages, the photo. I expected him to yell, to walk out, to explode. But he didn't. He sat back slowly, stared at the table, and then said something I didn't expect. I know. My breath caught. What do you mean, you know? He looked up at me with this blank expression. I hired a private investigator 2 weeks ago. I've had a feeling for a while. You weren't really hiding it. I didn't know what to say. My legs felt weak. I thought the worst had already happened, but then he added something that chilled me deeper. But I didn't send the messages. And neither did the investigator. Silence fell between us. That's when it hit me. Sarah. It all made sense. The way she kept showing up. The strange glances. The photo. We rushed next door, and for the first time in years, her door was already wide open. The place was empty. Cleared out. No note. No sign. Just gone. And on her kitchen counter was the spare key I had given her. Who she really was, or why she did it, I never found out. Maybe it was obsession. Maybe something else. But whatever her reason, she left behind chaos. And a secret neither of us could ever undo. We stood in Sarah's empty doorway for a long time, neither of us saying a word. Her whole house looked like she had vanished overnight. Furniture gone, walls bare. Like she had never existed. The only thing she left behind was that spare key, sitting there like a quiet reminder of how easily I had let someone into my life without asking the right questions. Back home, everything felt heavier. My husband and I didn't talk much for the next few days. The air between us was tense, filled with questions we weren't ready to answer. I didn't know what our future would look like, or if there was even one left to rebuild. But for the first time in years, we were finally being honest, no more pretending. Jake called once after everything happened. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was soft, uncertain. I never meant to mess things up for you, he said. Whatever happens, I just hope you find what you're really looking for. I never called him back. Not because I blamed him. But because deep down, I knew he was just a mirror for what I'd been avoiding, my own unhappiness. In the weeks that followed, I changed a lot. I stopped lying to myself. I asked my husband to go to counseling with me, and surprisingly, he agreed. We weren't magically fixed, but we were trying. And that meant something. As for Sarah, her number was disconnected. No trace of her online. It was like she had slipped out of one life and into another, leaving only damage behind. I sometimes wondered if she was just lonely, or if her obsession went deeper than I'll ever understand. Maybe she wanted what I had. Or maybe she just wanted to watch it fall apart. Looking back, it all started with something as small as a broken air conditioner. But the truth is, it was never about the AC. It was about what had been broken inside me for a long time. This wasn't just a story about infidelity. It was about choices. About what we ignore, what we chase, and what happens when we stop running from the truth. Some secrets stay hidden. Others get exposed. But eventually, every lie comes home. And when it does, you're left with two choices: keep pretending or start over.